Hi, everyone, and happy Valentine's Day week. We know love is in the air. However, so are romance scams. I'm Anastassia Olmos. I'm an investigator here at Atlanta News First, and I am joined now by the IRS, the Assistant Special Agent in charge here of the Atlanta Field Office, Maisha Horton. Romance scams have tripled in the last year. This is a staggering stat. Talk to me about what you do in your office, Maisha.
Thank you for having me. So, one of the things that we do here at IRS Criminal Investigations, we work all types of financial fraud investigations. IRS Criminal Investigations is the law enforcement arm of IRS. And what we do is we work any type of financial investigation that involves money. That includes romance scams, your typical tax fraud, employment tax. We also do money laundering. We do public corruption, narcotics investigation, any type of federal crime that touches money. We're the people that you wanna come to be able to trace those funds.
Wow, that is everything that we try to investigate, but you are the expert at the IRS. What kind of tips are you guys getting in about these romance scams and fraud?
I mean, some of the tips that we get, and a lot of times we come across romance scams because we're actually investigating another type of fraud. A lot of times we're investigating organized crime, and in our process of following the money, we come across victims of romance scams. And a lot of times those victims have been had because someone has reached out to them either through social media, email, phone call, or something of that magnitude, and they've, in essence, emotionally victimized them and have stolen all of their monies. A lot of times, everything that they've had, their entire life savings is gone.
So let me take you back there. So if I'm understanding correctly, these are people that don't even know that they're currently in a scam, but they think that they are in a relationship, and then you reach out to them.
You're absolutely correct. A lot of times they don't realize it until the money's gone. They By the time the money's gone, and that's when usually the perpetrator has gone ghost. Either they're actively still being victimized, or like I said before, by the time we get to them, they've already recognized it, but the money's gone, and they're too embarrassed to report it.
Oh, this is horrifying. We do get some of these tips and emails about the particularly elderly. Some people say, my dad, he's in his 90s and he's been in this relationship with somebody and they've taken everything from him. Can you help us? I could do an investigation, but I can't help them. Is there anything that the IRS can do to help these people?
Yes, one of the things that we can say, elderly are typically our most vulnerable and most susceptible to fraud. We talk to family members and we say, make sure you guys are having conversations with your loved ones. Let them know that, hey, do not send over financial information via email or to someone that they haven't met. If they haven't met these individuals in person, that's going to be kind of a red flag. A lot of times you see elderly, like, they just want to have conversations with individuals, and they get online to these dating websites, and individuals, they claim to have some type of problem, and all of a sudden they need someone to send them some money, but you've never met them. The elderly, they may ask to visit them at some point, or to be able to FaceTime. And once they get all these excuses, that's kind of a red flag. And so we tell our family members to make sure you're monitoring their financial situation. Make sure, ask questions. Who are they talking to? And a lot of times you can kind of figure some things out from there.
Yeah, we've done extensive reporting, particularly on military scams with romance fraud. Our chief investigative reporter, he has found that top-ranking generals, they will pose, the scammers will pose as these top-ranking generals, and they will say, "I need the money. I'm stuck in Syria. I'm stuck overseas, and I need money to escape." And people here that may think that they're talking to, a dreamy high-ranking military officer, are tricked. And so you're saying pay attention to those things well, why would the US government leave this high-ranking officer overseas stranded? Just some questions like that could save people from falling
I
to
mean,
victim.
that's the biggest thing to pay attention to. If this is a high-ranking general, why would a general need money from you? I mean, that's kind of a red flag to be able to go there. Soldiers, they work for the government, and especially if you're going to be a high-ranking individual, that government is going to take care of that soldier. So there won't be a need for them to reach out to a civilian to be able to assist them. There's so many other resources to be able to support. to support that particular soldier if it's true. And so a lot of times just kind of think about it. If it sounds too good to be true, it more than likely is. And there's no need for them to be asking a loved one to send them funds.
That is one of our mottos here in our investigative unit is if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And we tell people that all the time. Let's pull back the cover a little bit on particularly you mentioned you find these romance fraud cases while you're investigating other cases. What are you seeing in terms of what people are doing with technology? We've seen videos online of these kind of operations, possibly overseas, where they are just mass targeting uh, people, whether it's romance fraud or it's just, through Instagram, trying to reach out to children through video games. Are you uncovering that these are much, much bigger schemes?
They are. A lot of it starts with identity theft. So the person that you may think you're talking to is not even their real identity. Also, with the use of increasing technologies with AI, artificial intelligence, we're seeing some of that as well. Some things to be mindful of. So even the person that you think that you see online is not the actual person either. The biggest advice we can give is slow down,
Hmm.
do your due diligence, ask questions. If someone's reaching out to you and within a couple of weeks, within a couple of months, they're asking for your money, no one should be doing that, whether it's a legitimate relationship or not. And so just slow down, ask the right questions, trust but verify. We've seen investigations before where we go, we talk to victims and we're letting them know that, hey, you've been victimized. And it's very difficult for them to believe because the perpetrators, they'll send over documents, anything to make it look like and appear that they are who they say that they are, but none of those things are real. If you haven't seen this person in person, I mean, just don't fall for it.
Gosh, you hit on it. This day and age, it is so hard to tell what is real and what is not with artificial intelligence. Do you think that's why we're seeing such an increase in romance fraud, or are there other reasons?
I wouldn't necessarily say that it's artificial intelligence is why we're seeing the uptick. It's really just technology. People are now more accessible. So if you go back, a few years ago, or maybe a decade or so ago, you didn't have as much of the social media. You didn't have as much as people having everything accessible in their hands with their phones, and so that's what makes it an easy target. That they can email you, they can call you, they can do all types of things to make things sound believable and to appear to be believable, but they're not.
Yeah. Have you been able to recover any funds for people that have fallen victim?
Yes, as much as we can. The amount of seizures and forfeitures that we've had over the number of years, those things have more than doubled. Our conviction rate is 100%. Our indictments that we've had, they've more than tripled since the last year. The number of investigations that we've initiated, those have more than doubled. So we get our hands on you, we're going to find you, and we're definitely going to be convicted.
I just want to clap for you because that was that was we don't hear that often. You don't hear that you are getting 100% convictions. This is actually kind of mind blowing to me because when I think about, fraud in terms of technology and scamming and money, I've heard, okay, for example, with the USDA and SNAP benefits, they will say that we can't even find these people. They're just kind of in cyberspace and they're overseas, but you are able to find these people, or is it just these cases that are in the US?
We follow the money wherever it goes. If it's international, we have agents that travel international. We have agents that sit overseas that help us, that are liaisons between international law enforcement and United States law enforcement. So wherever the money goes, that is exactly what we do. We are financial experts. One of the things that differs from with us, with IRS criminal investigations versus any other federal law enforcement agency, we're the only law enforcement agency that devotes 100% of our time to financial investigations. So we're definitely the money experts, and so we can definitely track it down.
That is so interesting because people think IRS, they think taxes. You're coming after my tax money, but you guys are hard at work behind the scenes, actually investigating stuff that people would possibly just file a police report for.
That is absolutely correct. Like I said, we do any type of financial crime as long as it involves money, whether it's going to be mortgage fraud, narcotics investigations, bank fraud, wire fraud, public corruption. We do it all and we handle it all.
Okay, and so when you are based here in Atlanta, are you particularly seeing anything Georgia based, Atlanta based, or are you guys only looking kind of US?
For us, our judicial district is the Northern District of Georgia, which is here in Atlanta. And so some of the same types of things that we will see internationally, a lot of times the individuals, the the victims are here in Atlanta, but the actual perpetrators, they may be in another country somewhere. And so we take our investigative steps and we follow that money wherever it goes. And if it's an individual that doesn't live here and lives overseas, it doesn't prevent them from being indicted. And then once they're indicted and convicted, they can be extradited here.
Do you happen to have a percentage? I know that's probably a weird stat to have to memorize, but do you happen to know maybe how many people you're able to actually extradite from overseas?
Well, it depends on what our agreements are with different countries.
Mm,
So it depends on exactly where we are. I don't have a specific number, a specific percentage for you, but it just depends on just kind of where they are in another country.
okay. And then in general in the US, is North Georgia one of the more busier places for possible fraud, or is it everywhere?
We are. So I think there's, I believe, about 95 judicial districts across the country. The Northern Judicial District is ranked number 5 of all of that. So we're actually quite busy here in the Atlanta area.
Wow. Okay. Yes, we are busy here in Atlanta. Even our investigative team, we can't keep up with the tips coming in. So for people that feel that maybe they might be in a relationship that is possibly not real, or possibly think they may have been scammed, romance fraud, what should they do in terms of filing a complaint with your office?
So if you want to file one for here in Atlanta, we do have an email address. It's called Atlanta Field Office at ci.irs.gov. And it goes straight to our investigators, and we will take your lead. We will send someone out to conduct an interview and get additional informations. And if it's something that's worth it, we'll definitely open up an investigation and continue from there. If it's somewhere that's outside of the Northern Judicial District, then you're more than welcome to go to irs.gov and you can follow criminal investigations from there and report your fraud there.
Okay, so there's lots of resources in terms of reaching out to the IRS. And then I know you've mentioned several tips along the way throughout this conversation, but could we go through kind of the top tips that people should follow right now to not fall victim to romance fraud?
Number one, if you haven't seen them, don't send your money. Let's start there. If you haven't seen them, don't send your money. Number two, slow it down. Slow it down. Ask the right questions. Trust but verify. And then again, you shouldn't be sending any of your financial information to anyone online, through the computer, anything of that particular nature. And be mindful of the types of questions that are being asked of you. A lot of times people become susceptible and they become victims because they tend to overshare because they want to be in a relationship. And so they become emotionally manipulated. So if they're asking questions in the very beginning, what is it that you do? What type of home do you have? They're trying to, in essence, size you up to figure out what type of income that you have, in essence, to be able to take your money. And if they're trying to pressure you and make it seem like it's such an emergency, they have to get the money right now, that is another red flag.
Pay attention to the signs. A lot of people will try to convince themselves, well, no, they're just, they care, or they're in a rush, or, they're on a tight timeline. They have to move. Pay attention to your gut, right? Like, if it's too good to be true, it likely is. And that's really an unfortunate thing to have to think about in this day and age when everybody, they just want love. They want, especially around Valentine's Day, they're looking for a little bit of comfort, and possibly, someone popping up online could seem like, a dream come true or an answer to your prayers, but could also be romance fraud.
I just got one more tip
Yes,
if
girl.
we got time
Yeah.
for it.
Yes, we do.
Just one last tip too. If you're not sure, run it past a family member.
Mm.
Get them involved. A lot of times they try to separate you from your family to get you to kind of make the decision by yourself. Run it past somebody else and say, "Hey, what does this sound like to you?" And a lot of times when you have another person that's not in it, they're not involved, they can add a little bit more clarity.
And that's the other thing that we've been talking about is they're so good now at faking documents, or cloning their voice with AI, or possibly using excuses, for why they can't be on a FaceTime call to show you their face or come meet you in person. And so those things are not anything to be embarrassed about if you fell for, because it's hard to tell nowadays, right? So talking to a family member or a friend, just running it by them, don't be embarrassed. Just, it's better to not lose your life's savings than to be a little uncomfortable with sharing some details.
Absolutely. Come talk to us. Give us a chance to take a look at it, to investigate it, and hopefully be able to recoup your funds for you.
All right. And this goes all year long. Right now we're bringing you in because we're bringing romance fraud to kind of the forefront of headlines right now, as everybody's, looking for that special Valentine, but you guys are year round, right? I mean, there is like you said, in the last year, you've seen these numbers just jump. And so it's not just February, it could be any time.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's not limited to Valentine's. It's all year round. So be vigilant.
All right, Maisha, thank you so much for joining us and for all of our listeners and viewers. Of course, you can follow us at atlantanewsfirst.com. We are also streaming all the time and on YouTube. Stay with us. For more on this story, go to atlantanewsfirst.com and click on the ANF Investigates tab.